Before 2020, no one cared about supply chains. Not really. Things just showed up. Groceries, electronics, medicine, car parts, clothes. You tapped, ordered, and 2 days later, it arrived. But when that stopped happening, when delays stacked, inventories dried up, and ports filled with idle ships, the world looked up and asked, what went wrong? And maybe more importantly, is it finally over? Today on Daily Logistics, we're not doing surface talk. We're walking through the pressure points that collapsed the global supply chain and what's actually changed since then. Not the headlines, the mechanics. Because the system didn't break from one thing. It failed because of everything at once. Let's get into it. Long before COVID, the global supply chain was already vulnerable. For decades, companies pushed efficiency over stability. Manufacturers outsourced production to lower-cost countries. Inventory buffers were trimmed or eliminated, replaced by just-in-time systems. Sourcing became global, complex, and dependent on single vendors in faraway places. Why? To save pennies. Why not? The system worked. Until demand shifted. Until one supplier missed a deadline. Until a regional event rippled globally. What most businesses didn't realize is that their supply chain wasn't resilient. It was a high-wire act with no net. And in early 2020, that wire snapped. The pandemic didn't create the weaknesses. It exposed them and amplified them at scale. First came the lockdowns. Factories shut down in China, then India, then Southeast Asia. Production stopped for weeks, then months. But in the US and Europe, demand didn't fall. It shifted. People stayed home and started buying everything. Office chairs, laptops, kitchen appliances, baby gear, bikes. E-commerce exploded. So while supply fell off a cliff, demand was climbing a mountain. The result? Massive gaps in availability. And no easy way to fill them. Retailers panicked. They ordered more than usual, trying to stay ahead of shortages. Distributors did the same. Factories, seeing these big orders, cranked up production, often based on phantom demand. Suddenly, too much was ordered, but not enough could be moved. Because at the same time, ports were backed up. Truckers were unavailable. Warehouses were short-staffed. Containers were in the wrong places. This wasn't a domino fall. This was a full bullwhip effect, where small demand changes triggered huge reactions upstream. And once it started, the system couldn't catch its breath. In 2021, the Port of Los Angeles had over 100 ships anchored offshore, waiting days, even weeks to unload. Why? Because global containers were out of balance. China had too many goods, not enough containers. The US had containers sitting empty, far from ports. And the cost of repositioning them? Sky high. Freight rates soared. A container that cost $2,000 to ship from Shanghai in 2019 now cost $15,000, even $20,000 at the peak. But even with money on the table, there weren't enough dock workers, chassis, or drivers to clear the ports fast enough. So product sat and delayed everything behind it. Next came the chip crisis, and it hit everything from phones to cars. Modern vehicles rely on dozens of semiconductors. When chip makers paused or redirected supply early in the pandemic, automakers canceled orders, thinking demand would stay low. But when demand bounced back faster than expected, chips were already spoken for by consumer electronics companies. Automakers were left behind. Production stalled. Inventories vanished. It wasn't just a tech crisis. It was a logistics failure, built on misforecasting, siloed sourcing, and no backup plan. And the ripple hit the rest of the chain, from warehouses to dealerships. In logistics, equipment is important, but people, non-negotiable. And in 2021 to 2022, the people left. Warehouse staff resigned in droves. Port workers called in sick or refused overtime. Truck drivers, already overworked and underpaid, aged out or switched jobs. The driver shortage wasn't new, but during the crisis, it became visible. Delays weren't just about freight. They were about human exhaustion. Some fleets were parked, not for lack of demand, but for lack of hands to move them. And once the talent walked out, it didn't walk back in easily. As the chaos spread, inventory became unpredictable. Some brands couldn't keep anything in stock. Others had too much, ordered during the panic but delivered too late. Retailers overcorrected. By 2022, they had warehouses full of winter coats in June and no patio furniture in July. Warehouse space became scarce and expensive. 3PLs were overbooked, returns flooded systems, and cash flow froze, locked in unsold goods. This wasn't just an efficiency problem, it became a financial one, as overstocks collided with inflation and falling demand. If you worked through this, in retail, freight, warehousing, or manufacturing, you felt it. The emptiness, the overflow, the miscommunication. Share your frontline story in the comments. Tell us where you were, what broke down, and what you remember most from the crisis peak. And if you want more deep dives like this, subscribe to Daily Logistics. We keep it real, and we keep it moving. As things spiraled, policymakers scrambled. The U.S. pushed ports to go 24/7. China locked down ports entirely. India pushed to nationalize production. The EU tried to reshuffle sourcing toward Eastern Europe. Governments poured billions into semiconductor self-reliance, local manufacturing, and critical stockpiles. But they didn't coordinate. Everyone played defense, and many moves created new friction. Restricting exports helped local populations, but broke global flows. Stimulus spending helped demand, but crushed freight systems with volume. Logistics became political, and every country learned that global trade could be weaponized. In 2025, containers are moving again. Ports are flowing. Trucks are available. Some prices have normalized. But don't let the surface fool you. The system didn't recover, it restructured. Companies now carry more safety stock. They dual source. They nearshore. They pay premiums for flexibility. The crisis is technically over, but the rules have changed. Efficiency is no longer king. Resilience is. Here's what stuck for the long haul. Visibility matters. You can't react to what you can't see. Supplier diversification saves businesses. Digitalization isn't optional anymore. ERP, TMS, WMS all became survival tools. Local isn't always cheaper, but it's more stable. Logistics is no longer an afterthought. It's boardroom strategy. And most importantly, people matter. Drivers, planners, forklift operators, port labor, dispatchers. They weren't replaceable. They were essential. And now, companies are finally acting like it. The global supply chain crisis didn't happen because one thing went wrong. It happened because everything went right for too long, until it didn't. The system was fragile, overstretched, and untested for disruption. But in breaking, it exposed the truth. Supply chains aren't invisible anymore. They're center stage. And everyone in this field, you included, is more important than ever. So if you're studying this, building in it, or trying to fix it from the inside, you're exactly where the future needs you. This is Daily Logistics, and if this helped you understand the real story, give it a like, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe to keep digging deeper into the system that keeps the world moving. Stay prepared, stay sharp, and keep it daily.